Hello, I'm David Bryn Lewis. I'm a cruise lecturer specialising in novel destinations. A fascinating look at how our favourite authors created the characters, the plots, the dastardly crimes and the location detail that we so love to immerse ourselves into. From Shakespeare's Elsinore in Hamlet to Stieg Larsson's Stockholm in the Millennium Trilogy, from the souk to Casablanca to the Long Bar in Shanghai, it's the location that often hooks us in. So, please join me now as I introduce myself and my lectures, in the hope that you too will want to travel deeper into the amazing places we will be visiting and update your own case files on the novel destinations we'll explore together. I'll be surprised if you don't catch the bug just as I've done. I hope you'll enjoy these lectures. After a 30-year career in policing, I've increasingly given lectures around the world. In the States at the Pennsylvania State University, where I was visiting Fulbright Fellow in Policing Studies, in Turkey, in the Netherlands, in Spain, in South Africa and the Middle East, as well as 6 trips now to China. And of course, I've lectured in the home of English literature itself, in the UK, where so many authors, both British and international, have drawn their inspiration. I'm going to describe just 3 lectures here to give you a flavour. They are, firstly, Murder, Mayhem and Madness, a glimpse into the fictional underworld of our cruise destinations. Secondly, Royals, Writers, Rogues and Republicans, a unique guided tour through one of London's most celebrated tourist destinations and its hidden secrets. And thirdly, Mine's a Pint, said Morse, Oxford through the eyes of the real Sergeant Lewis. The first lecture, Murder, Mayhem and Madness, is an invitation to join me in your own investigation into the alleys, the streets, the souks and the waterfronts that we'll be visiting during the cruise. It's your personal trip into the dark, dank and once dangerous corners of our cruise destinations. This is a look into the life and inspiration of the most famous and sometimes infamous authors who were inspired to use the destination, either as a place to be born in themselves or to install the rotten villains and their misdeeds that we all so love to hate. If you look on the map, you can see the destinations of a recent Baltic cruise from Harwich to Copenhagen up to St. Petersburg. That's the novel destination's paradise city, perhaps, with all the great Russian writers, and in particular Dostoevsky, who wrote passionately about crime and punishment in the city. Now, if you look at the same journey taken from HMS Ariel in The Surgeon's Mate, book by Patrick O'Brien, along the same route, you see we stop at places like Copenhagen. This gives us the opportunity to walk around, have a look at probably some of the greatest buildings that appear in all of the Scandinavian crime fiction and the works perhaps of Kurt Wallander and Sarah Lund. What was it like to travel these waters, these tumultuous waters? What would it have been like in a wind-controlled sailing craft? If you haven't discovered O'Brien, I'd heartily recommend him. He's probably one of the best writers and describes the Baltic brilliantly. In the same way, if we're en route to Florida, Cuba, the West Indies, we take a look at the Florida Keys, Key West. See how Hemingway and Fleming stand up these days. Do the locations bear out against the fictional descriptions? Is the sea really as blue? The sand as white? And do the girls all wear hunting knives, as in Dr. No? Most importantly, just why were these hugely successful authors attracted and inspired so much by these often remote and wonderful places? Every port has its author, its fictional heroes or its famous settings, whether it be a bar in Casablanca or a gangland waterfront in New York's Lower East Side. The lectures provide you with just that extra piece of information that might just inspire you to take a personal trip of your own to the locations. Each destination port or anchorage has its own Murder, Mayhem and Madness fact sheet, a map and a recommended trail for you to follow if you want to. And we hope that you'll add your own discoveries to the contribution sheets that are used to enhance and develop each cruise lecture. The second lecture is called Royals, Writers, Rogues and Republicans. Here, I invite you to sit back and enjoy a very different armchair trip around one of the most iconic visitors areas perhaps in the world. The underside of that famous and infamous area of London known as Charing Cross. Here, we pound the beats that have seen so much of the world's history played out. In these few streets, fact and fiction come together. Hear of them in a fascinating whistle-stop tour. We discover little-known facts of the Mall shooting of Princess Anne, of how pickpockets operate, of how the IRA were finally stopped in these very streets, of how these gaslit alleys and pavements inspired Sherlock Holmes, Phileas Fogg, Richard Hannay, George Smiley, many other fictional heroes. Come with me and meet modern legends such as the late Brian Hoare in Parliament Square, or sense the tension of the day when I was ordered to arrest Tony Benn in front of the world's press, and what happened next. My third lecture is called Mine's a Pint, said Morse. We drop in at Oxford, where my colleagues at St Aldate's police station, where I was posted, sometimes called me the real Sergeant Lewis, after Colin Dexter's famous character in the Inspector Morse series. To more encounters of the royal kind, as in the near arrest of an heir to the throne, or the embarrassing theft of the President's watch at the Oxford Union, or the story behind the story of Anna Belinda, and the nearly greatest arrest in the world of Howard Marks, possibly the most prolific cannabis smuggler of all time, and how he got away from right under my very nose. So, want to know about the Queen and the dropped helmet? Or who told who to turn that naffing radio off? Or who wanted to stop and search the heir to the throne? Well, join me on my cruise lectures and you can find out the answers. Thank you for listening and joining me in this small glimpse into the novel side of life. Your travels may never be the same again. I very much look forward to travelling together with you at some stage of the future and to sharing your experiences of all your destinations. Happy travelling, and please do remember, despite what Agatha Christie, Dorothy L. Sayers and a host of other writers have said about murder on board ship, crime of any kind is extremely rare, if not non-existent on board a cruise. So you can sleep soundly in your bunks, even if Poirot isn't in the next cabin to comfort you. Goodbye.